Hey everyone, this is Molly McCord and welcome to a new video where we're talking about the Pisces full moon that is coming up on August 26, 2018, and it will be exact at 7:56 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so adjust for your time zone. And this chart is based in Orlando, Florida. However, please know that as I go through this chart, we're only going to talk about the planets. We're not going to focus on the house placements because that will depend on where you're located. So in this chart, we're looking at the Pisces moon. And we have a lot of energy in this full moon. So a lot that I want to cover in this video that I hope gives you more insights into the big energies of this full moon. So we can see here that the moon is at 3 degrees of Pisces and 12 minutes. That's what that second number is. It's the minutes. And it's exactly opposing the sun at 3 degrees of Virgo and 12 minutes. So every full moon is an opposition energy with the sun in the sun sign, right? And then the moon in its opposing sign. And because of this opposition, we have illumination. You see things under the moonlight that you don't normally see in the sunlight. So the full moon is always about something being revealed and illuminated and what you didn't really notice before. Now, when we have this Pisces full moon, it is a full moon of completion. And that's because Pisces is the last energy of the zodiac. It is the final sign. It is the sign of completion, release, endings, letting go. And in the moon energy, we emotionally complete, we spiritually complete, we find the higher perspectives of Pisces, which is ultimately unconditional love. So this energy is really about what you have learned spiritually, where you have grown, what do you have come to realize between your spiritual self and your human self. Now, Virgo is an earth sign, and the sun in Virgo is very practical, and it is it is all about being on the earth, of the earth, taking care of earthly matters, tending to our bodies, our routines, our responsibilities. It's where we start to get ready to go back to school, and where we go back to work after the summer break, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere. It's back to business, basically. When the sun is in Virgo, we get all of our ducks in a row and we understand, okay, I have to tend to life. I have to get back to my responsibilities in the physical world. But this full moon brings up the energies of the spiritual realms and how you emotionally honor who you are spiritually, even though you are a human on this crazy human ride. You are bigger than the temporary life experiences. You are the soul energy. And this full moon is actually asking you to look at where you are now on your spiritual path, because it is, again, energy of illumination. So you're saying, well, okay, this is what I have to do. This is what's important. This is where I need to show up, but this is where I am. So you look in your chart at where 3 degrees of Pisces is. That's where this full moon energy is illuminating I always feel this as like the heights of a spiritual level, like what you've learned in the previous cycle. Since last September, when we had an Aries full moon. So you've been through this full cycle, and what have you learned now in the past 12 months that has brought you to a higher understanding and perspective, and now you're ready to essentially spiral up to the next level, to let go of something, to release it, to let it be, to find the peace within. And that's important here because the moon in Pisces wants that peace, but sometimes the sun in Virgo is very particular, or it looks for what still needs to be changed or corrected, or how something can be improved. Find the peace within and accept what is, because you can always find more things to improve, correct, edit, change. All of these are Virgo words. But the full moon is saying if you can find peace in what is, it will actually be one of your best tools moving forward. So this full moon, because it's in Pisces, is ruled by Neptune. So we look up here and there's Neptune. He's at 15 degrees of Pisces retrograde. And this is an energy of the inner healing, the inner realms, going inward for your answers, for listening to those whispers, for listening to what you need to know right now. Whatever those whispers might be for you, that's where you're being directed to. There's a calming energy here. There's a sense that it's okay to take some quiet time to just listen to what is important right now. So the Pisces energy here is reminding you that the answers are within, and take that pause to acknowledge how far you've come. Okay, this is an internal thing. This is where you validate you, where you acknowledge, wow, I've been through a lot. I've had a lot of things that have required me to grow spiritually, to be in uncomfortable places in my humanness. That's what the Pisces energy does. It stretches us. It stretches us beyond our 3D selves, our human selves, and asks us to step into the vastness of our spiritual selves, of our soul selves, and to trust that, to trust what you can't see. Now, this Neptune energy is retrograde, and it is still trining Jupiter, who's at 16 degrees of Scorpio. And because Jupiter is moving direct now, Jupiter is seeing everything you've transformed since it was retrograde earlier in this year. Jupiter was retrograde for 4 months, and it's stationed direct July 9th, 10th. And when it's stationed direct, Jupiter in Scorpio said, now we're going to move forward with everything you've learned about your fears, your doubts, where you were feeling that, you know, the deepest parts of you. I call it the bottom of the ocean, where you just were like, oh, I'm underwater, I'm drowning, I'm so afraid. It's the cave, right? This energy relates to the Thai cave rescue energy of spirit was there. Jupiter was helping you learn from your fears and to learn where even in those darkest places you're supported. And now this Jupiter energy, as it communicates with Neptune and your spiritual self, it's saying it's okay to transform right now because it's for a bigger purpose. It's for the vastness that you are. So those fears can be temporary and those fears can show up at times, but please put your energy in the Pisces places right now, especially where this Neptune is in your natal chart. The 15 degrees is where you are surrendering and you are trusting big time. And this Pisces full moon is supporting that. And it wants you to acknowledge and recognize how far you've come. Now, getting back to this Jupiter energy of the fears that you've seen, of what's under the surface, perhaps your shadow energy, where you get triggered, where you have resentment, any emotional depths that you go to, you're being encouraged right now to transform this and to learn from them. Jupiter is about what we learn, how we grow, how we find wisdom in those dark places. So keep in mind that this energy is supporting your transformation. It's allowing you to continually go to your higher self for guidance whenever this part of you, those fears pop up again. Now, it is important to be mindful right now during this full moon that this Jupiter energy, where you're transforming your fears in some way, is being squared by Mercury, who is at 14 degrees of Leo, 54 minutes, and Mercury in Leo just stationed direct August 19th. So Mercury in Leo was retrograde July 26th at 23 degrees of Leo, went all the way back to 11 degrees of Leo on August 19th. So he is gaining new pride, confidence, and strength in what he thinks about himself and his abilities, his light. And you know what happens? When you're starting to get new confidence and you're saying, yes, I can do this. Yes, I'm talented, or yes, I want to try something. I want to take a risk. I want to have more courage. Well, what happens is that in your psyche, the fears come up and they challenge you, and they can look big. And this is where this Jupiter and Scorpio energy can say, oh, really? Are you sure you can do that? It'll challenge you. It'll emotionally challenge you to stay confident in how you embrace who you are now. Mercury in Leo has mental strength. So you are being gifted with getting mentally stronger despite the fears, okay? So this square, you see how Jupiter's at 16? Mercury is almost at 15. He's going to be square Jupiter for a day or so around this full moon. So you could feel that your fears come up around what you learned during the Mercury retrograde, but just acknowledge them and know that what you do with this, what you always do is you look for the trine. So there's a square here to Jupiter, but remember, Jupiter is trining your higher self. So the fears you might feel them at first, but then if you connect this energy to your higher self and you listen, it's going to help you. It's going to help you see the bigger picture of who you are right now. So that is one energy that's in play right now. There's another big energy here that I want you to be aware of, and that's that we still have this awesome Earth Grand Trine happening. And I've talked about that in some other videos. I have 2 separate videos for you on the Earth Grand Trine. And it's a part 1 and part 2. And it was with Saturn in Capricorn, trining Uranus in Taurus. But in those teaching videos, Venus was right here. Now the sun is creating and completing this Earth Grand Trine. That's amazing because the sun is light, and the sun is a big energy in astrology. It's one of the biggest energies because it is the light. It is the source of all energy. So here we have a reinvigoration of this Earth Grand Trine at this full moon. And you'll see here that Saturn at 2 degrees of Capricorn is retrograde, but will be stationing direct the first week in September 6th. So he's going to be hanging out at 2 degrees. And he's helping you restructure what you're building and make sure that you have what you need in place to continue and to commit to this part of you. So wherever 2 degrees of Capricorn is in your chart, you're recommitting to your long-term goals and how you're going to get there. And so this energy, it's retrograde, so it's a time to be thinking about it, revising, reprioritizing, reconsidering, and it is trining Uranus at 2 degrees of Taurus. I wanted to say Venus at Taurus retrograde, and this is giving you new understandings of your self-worth, new understandings of who you are underneath, like the bedrock of your life, underneath it all. And it's shaking up things so that you can get a clear understanding of what value you have in the world, of what you're here to make, the money you're here to receive. This is making sure that your finances are in alignment with your sense of self-worth. And so this energy is being stabilized by Saturn. So this is good financial energy here to really get clear about what you want to commit to and the money you need to sustain your life, because that money reflects how you value yourself. It's also retrograde. So again, it's a reconsidering energy. It's internal. So both of these are now getting support from the sun at 3 degrees of Virgo, who brings in the practicalities and the details and how you can make things really happen. What are you overlooking? What are you forgetting? What do you need? Virgo brings in those solutions because Virgo is a problem solver. And it says, oh, you know what? Maybe you didn't see this over here. And then Virgo will show you a new solution on a spreadsheet or, show up with the Excel document or the to-do list. So this is very efficient. It's planning, it's purpose, it's understanding that, okay, I can do this. There's an inspiration here. So the Grand Trine brings in the resources of the physical world to sustain you and to make sure that you really cover all the bases. Now, the other aspect here that's going on that makes this even more special is that because it's a full moon, the moon is involved, but only for a short amount of time because the moon moves fast. And so the moon creates a sextile between the Saturn energy and the Uranus energy. So do you see this? This is what's called a kite. A kite is when the planets make a kite configuration, they're all in harmony and flow and supportive. Now, it doesn't last for very long, like I said, because the moon keeps moving along. So this is probably only really good for a few hours during the full moon, but it's understanding how there are pieces that are coming together, and the moon is at this point of the kite where there is flight. Okay, flight, it takes off. So this is the tip of the kite, right? So something lifts off when the moon comes in here and you see the resources that you have and what's in place and what you've already got figured out. And you're like, oh my goodness, I could actually do this. And then the moon comes through and says, you're going someplace with this because you believe in it and you have the higher perspective of how it can help and benefit more people. So the moon lifts off the kite and it gives you that sense of soaring, of where do you want to soar next. Now again, it's fast moving, but it gives you that understanding that when you connect your spiritual self with your human self and you know what the resources are in play, you can really make some connections here, some breakthroughs, an ease, a grace. It will shift you at a soul level, spiritual level. This is your spiritual self saying, I've got you. You're good. It's okay. Don't get too locked into the physical world. Look at the higher perspective. So there's an inspiring energy here with this kite that just gives you that burst, that sense of anything can come together when I trust the energies that are bigger than me. When I go bigger in my spiritual growth and who I am and who I believe myself to be. And when you tap into that, your intuition, your spiritual self, that's where this liftoff occurs during this full moon. I feel like that's also a strong part of why this is a completion energy. It's an ascension. You lift off from who you were. You lift off from what you knew yourself to be and you see the fullness, right? Think about how a kite soars and you see something from that higher perspective. So if you can be willing to lift off and to grow spiritually. Now, this isn't always easy. You have to leave something behind. You have to leave behind what's complete and what doesn't serve you. But you have support for that, okay? And the support is showing up in a few places. So we also have Chiron at 1 degree of Aries making a trine to the North Node. This is giving you the courage. The North Node in Leo is giving you the courage you need to be these new parts of yourself, even if you're not certain, even if it's insecure, even if you're still figuring out because it's all new. There's this support here. And because these are in fire signs, it's motivating, it's enthusiastic, it's that sense of possibility and a new start. So there is this energy of, I can do this, I can try. And then we also have our dude Mars, and he's important to note here. So Mars is at 28 degrees of Capricorn, and he is about to stop retrograding. He's been retrograde since June 26th, and he's going to station direct at 28 degrees of Capricorn. So he went backwards to this point, and this is the same point he was at in mid-May. of this year. So in mid-May, you are figuring something out. Mars in Capricorn is a strategic planner who gathers together what he needs, the resources, the guidance, the team, everything for the bigger picture. He assembles the war plan. He assembles the way ahead. He's very determined and he's ambitious. So you're going back to revisit an ambition you had in mid-May, and you've been reassessing it all summer, whether you've realized it or not. And now Mars is about to station direct just after this exact full moon, and then you march ahead. You charge forward. You're like, I've got a plan, and it's better now because I had the time to slow down, which Mars doesn't want to do. He wants to keep marching. He doesn't want to hit the brakes and go in reverse. But now that he's come back to his desk and he sat down and he looked at everything, he had a lay of the land and he understood what was going on. Now there's a new plan. And he's going to move forward here, and he is going to really get some things clear throughout September. And by the time we're in October, Mars is going to be in new territory because he went retrograde at 9 degrees of Aquarius all the way back to 28 degrees of Capricorn, which isn't that far. It's really not a big degree change, but he had to slow down and look at things. Now he's sitting down, he's pausing, he's reassessing, and he's like, okay, this is what we need to change. And he's going to understand that and make those changes throughout September and then move ahead. And we'll be in new territory in October. So understand that things might not feel that they're going full steam ahead just yet at this full moon. There's still a number of planets retrograde, right? I mean, we talked about Saturn retrograde. Well, Pluto, he's retrograde. Mars is retrograde. Neptune, Chiron, Uranus, and then the North Node's always retrograde. So there's a sense here that, okay, things are still a little slow in August, but they're coming together, especially within your spiritual energies and area. You are understanding what you've been learning, and now you have the ability to let go. Let go, release, that's done, that's complete. Yes, I have to take care of life, but I can also let go of who I was and allow myself to ascend and to rise up. Now, one other thing I want to call out here is that Venus is lovely at 18 degrees of Libra, and she's getting a sextile from her brother, Mercury, who's at 14 degrees of Leo. And so these two are siblings and they get along. And right now they're in a nice sextile. So they're friends and they're encouraging each other. But Venus, she's in a tough square right now with Pluto at 19 degrees of Capi. So this can be financial stuff, relationship stuff is big right now. It could be tests around relationships, especially when Venus is in Libra, because she wants to be lovely, but the Pluto and Capricorn requires decision making. So you could see some things in relationships that need to change and are uncomfortable and you don't like it, but it's forcing a decision, it's forcing a transformation. Whenever a planet makes a square to a Pluto, you're looking at something with new eyes, a higher level of consciousness, and you need to be honest with yourself about relationships that are unhealthy. And even if they're good for, say, your mind, your ego, what you think, understand that Pluto is asking us to really look at something from a place of, I'm willing to change, I'm willing to understand this from a different level of consciousness, because something could be out of balance and really uncomfortable with this square. And I wanted to call that out for you too, because whenever a planet, a personal planet, such as lovely Venus, squares Pluto, we feel it. And we know that something has to shift. So this is in the collective, and you want to look in your chart to see if you have any planets or points at 18 degrees of Libra, because that is going to be in effect here for a few days around this full moon. But remember, it's a completion. So if you can tap into what you're completing at a soul level and spiritually, it will help. let go of anything or just take a break, take a pause. Understand that sometimes with relationships, maybe you need a break and you reconnect in 2 years, right? You reconnect with them later when they're at a different place and you're at a different place. So the relationship tension is real, but if you're focused on your spiritual growth and letting go, it will help. It will really help. So I hope this has helped give you some insights into this Pisces full moon. I did this video before Mercury went retrograde, so fingers crossed I didn't make any mistakes because I wanted to get this out to you before the Mercury retrograde period. And I just want you to know that we're living in an amazing time, and I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for watching these videos, for subscribing, commenting, liking. I do teach an introductory astrology course if you would like to learn more from me. And I do hope you join my astrology email list to also stay in touch. So thank you so much. I'll be back soon with even more astrology videos, and I'm glad you're here to share this adventure. See you soon.